Okay, this is the part of the afternoon where we say the envelope, please. The range and variety of properties honored here since 1991 with the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation Preservation Awards covers large, small homes, businesses, landscapes, and public spaces all across Lake Forest, and there's been one or two in neighboring Lake Bluff over the years. The 8 awards today represent 4 categories: rehabilitation, infill, preservation, and heritage. There are 2 other categories for our awards, reconstruction and restoration, but those will have to wait for another year. The standard for judging structures and landscapes for awards are those of the Department of the Interior. As for the National Register of Historic Places, our award winners include structures that have been rehabilitated or renovated to meet these Department of Interior standards, rather than going off into another style and look. Places newly constructed also fit into a criteria and fit harmoniously within their neighborhood as they're built new. The first award today, 511 Rosemary Road, Patrick McGriff and his wife Lois. It's a 1928 Stanley Anderson Tudor designed for the reputable Griffiths brothers, who are a family of contractors and construction builders here in Lake Forest. Located on beautiful Rosemary Road in East Lake Forest. Home is accented by a long paved driveway, and it has this really, really charming low wall that runs along the length of its property on Mayflower. So we'd like to come up the McGriffs. They did a complete 3-4 interior preservation and restoration to preserve a lot of the 1928 architectural Stanley Anderson elements in 2018. Thank you.
So much.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you. Great work. Thank you on the tour. You did great. Our next award winner, 1950 Merritt Lane. The owners are Mr. and Mrs. Toby Lees. Built in 1936, attributed to Ralph Millman, this 2-story brick country home tucked into a quaint little street in the southwest corner of Lake Forest. The current owners relish this historic property and vowed to make sure that any changes they made were in keeping with the home's original architecture. The back side of the house where that bay window was, and also where they added French doors, they did a lot of redoing of those to get it appropriate for what it is there today, and it looks gorgeous. Accepting the award are Susie and Toby Lees. This also has won our Architect Award. Diana Melikar won the award this year for this. If you can come up, guys. Thank you. The next property to be an award winner here is 5 East Laurel. It's owned by Doctors Anna and Stephen Russo. It's one of Stanley Anderson's great country Georgian houses from 1936. The all-land and stone house has a Palladian-inspired front porch with Anderson's classic triangular pediment with the oculus window above. The house is reminiscent of Anderson's recently completed, that would have been high school, which was 1935, just the year prior to this house. So you can see some similarities in the high school and this home. The house has eclectic mix of Georgian hip and mansard roofs. Subsequent additions of a kitchen and sunroom have followed and complemented the roof patterns there. The house recently fell into deep disrepair and was purchased by the Russos. They've extensively cleaned and tuck-pointed the stonework, replaced the windows while keeping the dark color of the mullions and frames. In the late 1930s, Anderson painted window frames a gloss black in most of his works. The Russos have tried to emulate that color with the dark brown powder coat color to the windows. Additionally, they've had extensive rebuilding and painting of the shutters, the original shutters, repaired the roofs, revitalized HVA system and other amenities inside the home. Stephen Russo has also removed several dead elm trees and over 100 dead ash trees and an extensive overgrowth of buckthorn that is on the property and really revitalized the landscape there. So it was on the Stanley Anderson tour last year. Doctors Stephen and Anna Russo, are you here? This house is on my running path every day for the last 10 years, and I've seen it before and seen you hauling big piles of trees out to the corner and stacked up there. It looks wonderful. The next award is to Lake Forest Academy. Lake Forest Academy's campus since 1948 on the Melody Farm of J.O. Armour estate. It's centered there with the Arthur Hune Mansion. The buildings present that are winning the award today are the north extension of the main house and have developed since the 1990s. That area of their campus has developed since the 1990s. And the two buildings, the Science Hall and the Student Union, both by architect Peter Whitmer, who has done the current master plan also for the school. All the work of local architect Peter Whitmer stands out in it's respectively compatible with the former Reed House, the postmodern touch in the roof lines, and really when you see the campus and those new buildings tucked in with the old historic buildings, the sight lines and roof lines are very, very well done to accommodate the look and feel that it's just a modern extension of those historic hewn buildings. The newer construction of these two similar buildings has also expanded greatly the capacity of the school and its ability to offer current science teachings. The grounds, too, reflect a good planning and respectful design away from the conflict and not conflict with the historic garden. Some magazine articles in 1905, when the house was being worked on and done, called it the Armour House, the original Armour House, the finest house built in America between the two coasts. So if I think the head of school, John Strudwick, is here, and Peter Whitmer. Now for the next award winner, the Middlefork Bridge. This is a project that took many years in the making. Mike Rummel, when he was a alderman, had someone approach him about trying to repair the concrete bridge that was there. It didn't get going with much leverage then. When he was mayor, it was also another factor in him trying to get it off the ground and running to get this great connector from the really Conway Farms, LFA, and the communities east of east of Waukegan Road to use the prairie and then go over this bridge if they wanted to keep going on a nice walk. It took a few years. The initial plans, when they came back from drawings, it was about an $800,000 estimate. Whenever the bid went out for bid, it was about double that, like a lot of works do. Jim knows that with the train station. So Mike continued to work on this after he was mayor with the county forest preserve on the Lake County, him being on Lake County Board, and the forest preserve really got involvement from both the grants. Some grants were issued, as well as getting the private sector involved. A few families and other organizations that have connections here in Lake Forest stepped up and did this bridge. They had a 3-hour window on September 9th, 2017 at about 2 in the morning because of Metro's train schedule there. They had all the equipment. The bridge was prefabbed and all made and ready. You can see the lower left picture there to the next day after it was installed. But yeah, they had a very short window to get it up there. It does a wonderful job of connecting, or you can see on the picture on the right, the remnant of the old concrete bridge that would have had Mr. Armour driving across on the way to his house, entering off the gates of Waukegan Road and through his property. The bottom picture shows that path of the road that would have gone through, and the other two pictures show the bridge when it was in its full glory there. The bridge, there's also another image I didn't put on here of a whole cross-section of his estate, and the bridge was the highest point in elevation on the whole of the estate there. So it's real nice when you go there and walk across the bridge today. You really get a great panorama of the prairie and the everything around there. So accepting the award today is Mike Rummel for all of his great hard work and dedication and keeping after it. Congratulations. It's beautiful. The Lake Forest train station. So Jim talked a great deal about it in his speech earlier, but it really was a project that was about 10 years in the making, starting with a historic structure report by Gunny Harbaugh's firm in 2009, grants that were sought out by the city and other instances. Dave Mattoon also did a lot of research on the history of the station's lighting, the 4 dormer windows, the channel light into the center of the building by the ticket window, and they were restored in 2011. And the skylight was recreated with LED lights built by Jim here. So accepting the award for the train station, Mike Strong, here, good. Dan Martin, Norm Carlson, and Jim Upsetnik. You're going to get a workout today coming up here. Good job. Good job. Going back to the beginning there, I'd mentioned that for 10 years, it was a long-term project, but it all started with Gunny Harbaugh and doing the historic structure report for us and getting it off the ground and letting us know what. Our next award winner, 1935 North Sheridan Road, Carla Westcott. This 2-story Center Hall colonial on 4 acres is the former Smith Arboretum that was in the later 1880s in that same location. There's a large bay window feature on the south facade's east side. Sometime it was likely salvaged after the World's Fair in 1893. Large ginkgo trees on the south side of the house and numerous full mature trees on the lot really accent the whole property. Also present is a root cellar near the drive east from Sheridan. It was the first local swimming pool, and it also had a tennis court. The Winter Club across Sheridan Road had a tall toboggan that about 1905 or 7 would end up at the property there across the way. It was built in 1894. The architect, through some attributed research, is John Todd Hethington. The original owner was Mayor Edward Fisk Gorton, who did so much for the town of Lake Forest here in its infancy and early days, and Fannie L. Whitney Gorton, his wife. Several in the last 50 years renovations have occurred, including the bay windows on the south facade at the stairway, master bedroom, suite, and kitchen restoration as well. Accepting the award is Carla Westcott. That was a Heritage Award. And one more award for the afternoon here. It's also another Heritage Award. 408 East Illinois, the owners, Pam and David Wad. It was the Gilbert Rossiter home in 1859. Along with Mrs. Southworth's house was the oldest homes in town. It was originally located on Deer Path near the west end of Triangle Park. It was a relatively square Italian villa reflecting the mid-19th century type modeled on the two casinos that are Villa Latine near Rome. It was moved to its current location in 1920. It's just around the corner here at Gorton. Its porches, balustrades identical to those of Lynn and Jim Bertram's house at 725 South Sheridan, making it likely that Alfred Granger adapted the house when it did this move in 1920 to its current location. There are Lincoln and related history items and legends associated with the house. The 1920 renovation I mentioned, Alfred Granger is the attributed architect, and balustrades matching some other Frost and Granger structures. In this century, in the modern age, the Wadds have built a new garage that's in a compatible Italianate style and sits nicely next to the 1859 house. Accepting the award are Pam and David Wadd. So here you have the 8 places awarded, varying in size, age, and function. The styles range from the initial years of Lake Forest's founding to the 21st century modern revival, with architects that range from Frost and Granger and Stanley Anderson a century ago to Gunny Harbaugh and Peter Whitmer today. Through the dedication of the owners and agencies of these award winners today that join previous year's winners, the continuation of preservation in our town is intact through diligence with people who know the effort, rewards, and some heartache that's associated with stewardship of these old historic properties. Along with congratulating the winners and the architects, we want to thank the judges panel this year, for the awards, as well as those who agreed to be nominated. I wish to thank Peter Catan, who organized the presentation here today and put together the slides, Art Miller, who developed the information, as well as some of the captioning material. And then just one more pitch for the Ellen Shipman talk that's coming up shortly. That's at Gorton on May 9th at 1 o'clock. The Royal Elizabeth had mentioned the New York one being sold out. The Royal Oak Foundation is sponsoring Judith Tankard's kind of nationwide talks of different cities, major cities, and we're lucky enough here, she's talking in Chicago, and we're close enough and have a lot of Shipman Gardens that she agreed to come up and stay an extra day and do a talk here. So that'll conclude all of the presentation. Thank you to all the award winners and everyone involved.